What if the problem is not that a child cannot learn, but that we are teaching in a way their brain was never designed to process? Good to think about, right? So, dyslexia affects up to 15 to 20% of learners. Yet, too many families are told to wait and see. So, dear listeners, today we are flipping that script because when neuroscience meets classroom and when systems replace the guesswork, confidence changes everything. Yeah. So, hey, dear listeners, welcome back to another powerful episode of Mind Meets Machine, where we explore the intersection of human potential, science, and smart systems that create real impact. I'm your host, Avik, and today I'm joined by a lovely guest. Please welcome Russell Van Brocklin. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So, thank you so much, Russell, for joining us today. And before we get into the discussion, dear listeners, I'll quickly love to introduce you with Russell. So, Russell is the dyslexia researcher and the creator of the writing method, which is a neuroscience based framework helping struggling learners become the confident writers. And his work, supported by the New York State and the Sun Research Foundation, has helped students achieve measurable academic growth and renewal self belief. Yes. So, we will also explore, dear listeners, the dyslexia, the writing confidence, and how mission driven education businesses can create scalable impact while also bringing calm back into the families, learning challenges. So, I'll not take much of your time. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So, Russell, like we met more than once, right? So, but here one curious thing, right? I'm really curious. Like when you first started working with the students who are maybe who with the students who are struggling with the reading and writing, what moment made you realize the issue wasn't effort, it was the method? So, if you can share.
Well, I went to college and I went through college with a first grade reading and writing level. I didn't learn to read and write until law school.
Okay.
It was literally my second class in contracts. I went to see a professor and he called on me. And what they do in law school is they use the Socratic method. If you don't know the answer, which virtually nobody does the second day of law school, they keep asking you questions to embarrass you until you eventually adopt. It's kind of like just throwing you in front of a judge and expecting you to perform. That didn't happen to me. I didn't respond as the professor's, as a student, I responded as the professor's equal. So he argued with me. I answered his questions. We're going back and forth. He's pressing harder. I'm answering harder. 5
Mm.
minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then he throws up his arms and says, Russell, you couldn't be any more correct. All right, I have to move on to the next case in the interest of time. Here's what happened. This is the top book in dyslexia. It's called Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz, medical doctor from Yale. This is on the second edition, page 78, figure 23. This is dyslexia. As you can clearly see, the back part of the normal brain has massive neural activity in the back part of the brain. The dyslectic has essentially near zero. But the front part of the dyslectic brain is about 2.5 times overactive. So essentially, and I'm going to way oversimplify really advanced neuroscience, is the back part of the brain is where you do like K through high school. All right, this is where your reading, writing is supposed to happen, but it doesn't. So it really tricks out the front part of the brain by 2.5 times the neural activity.
Mm.
And dyslectics traditionally, once we hit a graduate program, we own it. We're top students day one or close to it because we have that massive overactivity. And that area deals with two areas, word analysis followed by articulation. So if you look at law school, it's very much about word analysis, what words you're trying to project, what you're trying to discuss, and very much about articulating it. And everything just organized for me for the first time and flew through. After I did that, I learned to read within a month. I learned to write within a couple of years. And then to just demonstrate what I learned, I wanted to
Mm.
work with students who were like me, highly intelligent, highly motivated. And when I went back to my old high school, Averill Park Central School District, right outside of Albany, New York, the capital of New York State, I was funded by the New York State Senate after years of them looking into this for a multi-year study. We took highly motivated dyslexic high school juniors and seniors, look at, say, 16 to 18. They're reading and writing like 12 to 13, one class period a day through the school year. At the end of that, they're writing in the average range of entering graduate school students as measured by the Graduate Records Exam Analytical Writing Assessment. They all went on to college. They all graduated, GPAs at 2.5 to 3.6, and it cost the state less than $900 a student, which was, we were X as successful as the best dyslexic college and less than 1% of the cost. And that's how I got started with it.
That's amazing. And there's this still quite assumption that struggling readers just need to try harder. Like, I'm really curious, what's the biggest misconception parents and
Biggest
even the educators have?
misconception is you don't teach reading, you teach writing. It's called writing to read. So I want you to think about what you do every day.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm going to just generally broadcast both of us as knowledge workers. We produce knowledge. We communicate it in writing, in
Mm.
voice, whatever, but you have to communicate a lot of stuff to your audience in writing. So reading is just assumed that we're going to be able to read. Then we process the information into a value added form, and then we write it out and we're judged on our writing. I'm going to give you a little hint. If you
Okay.
can write a word, you can read it. If you can write it, you can read it. All right. So I'd like to
That
go
makes
and
sense.
give. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. It's really interesting.
Okay. So I'd like to give your listeners something that they can use today.
Yeah.
So I want you to imagine typically we have a dyslexic kid, usually in elementary school, and the biggest problem is they're writing a bunch of apparently randomly placed misspelled words. Nobody knows what to do. It's an easy fix. All we have to do is actually go to the science, not do the back part. This is your brain. We're not going to use that. We're going to pull it forward, and we're going to use the part that's 2.5 times overactive. Okay? So we're pulling it forward from the back where nothing's going on to the front where we got 2.5 times the activity. All right. Do you know any dyslexic elementary school students at all, ever in your life?
No, I haven't been, but I heard a lot. Yes.
Okay. So you've heard about some. Do you know anyone? Did you hear about one particular student quite a lot or not really?
Not exactly right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to give you my standard example. Her name is Sarah. She was
Okay.
10 years old in 5th grade, reading and writing at the 2nd grade level. Okay. So let's call it a
Okay.
10-year-old reading and writing like a 7-year-old, but she's writing randomly placed misspelled words. Her favorite thing in the world is swimming. So you have to find the kid's favorite activity or thing they like to do. For Sarah, it's swimming. She's on the swim team. She gets to the pool every chance she can get. So first thing we need to do is we need to stop her writing a bunch of randomly placed misspelled words because nobody knows how to fix this. So what we're going to do is if you were teaching Sarah, you would pull out a laptop computer with a real keyboard or a desktop with a real keyboard. You're not going to use an iPad. You are not going to use an iPhone, and you are absolutely certainly not handwriting. So
Exactly.
you're going to you're going to go up, open up a Word document or whatever Word document like thing you're going to use, and you're going to type out hero plus sign. What are we talking about? And then Sarah's going to copy it. And I can hear parents right now, but my kids aren't supposed to copy. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, Default Writing Strategy of Copying. It's okay. All right. So she copies it. Then we're going to swap out hero for Sarah. And so now we got Sarah plus sign. What are we talking about? Then we're going to go to a list of 10 things that Sarah really, really likes and 10 things she really, really dislikes. And the
Okay.
first thing she likes on her list is swimming. So we got Sarah plus sign swimming. I'm sorry, we got Sarah plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to swap out what are we talking about with swimming. So now we got Sarah plus sign swimming. See how we got there?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, I'm going to try to fool you with two of the simplest questions you will ever be asked. If you answer them exactly, this works. If it doesn't, you're going to have an epiphany on what dyslexia really is. Do you think I'll be able to fool you?
Please.
Well, let's try it. So just answer. Try to be as specific as possible. We got Sarah plus sign swimming. We got to replace the plus sign with a word.
Okay.
Here's my question. Does Sarah like or dislike swimming?
Sarah likes swimming. Sarah dislikes swimming.
Okay, well, it's her favorite thing in the world.
Mm.
That's why it's on the top of her likes list. So we got Sarah plus sign swimming. We got to swap out the plus sign with a word. Here's my question. Does Sarah like or dislike swimming?
Likes swimming.
Yes, but that's not what I asked.
Okay.
Do you want to give it another shot, or are you thoroughly confused?
I'm a bit confused right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happened is I asked, does Sarah like or dislike swimming? You're an educated man, so what you automatically did is you added the S to make it a proper
Mm.
sentence.
Yeah.
Sarah is dyslexic. She doesn't know how to add the S. So she would have said like because that's what I asked, and she would have put in Sarah like swimming. Yes, you see that epiphany?
Yes.
Now, we have to figure out, how do we teach a 10-year-old girl how to add the S? Okay, I'm going to tell you what all my competition does. They try to make this back part of the brain work when there's virtually nothing going on instead of, see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I'm going to pull it forward and do the overactive part.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say you were Sarah's godfather. All right. And you had 10 million bucks in the bank. You would send her to an Orton Gillingham multi-century school, like the Windward School in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. They have a 98% success rate. They could take students like Sarah in, work with them for 4 to 5 years, and then they send them back, and they are as educated as any of the best private schools on the planet. It's only $75,000 a year for 4 to 5 years, just in tuition, because it's 4 to 1 or to 5 to 1 student teacher ratio.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't afford that unless if you're a millionaire, multiple millionaires. Okay. So for the rest of us, here's how we can do it with modern science. Because again, what we're going to do is we're going to pull it forward. We're not going to use the part of the brain where nothing's going on. We're going to use the front part with 2.5 times the neural activity. So according to Yale, that deals with word analysis followed by articulation. So let's do word analysis. I would ask Sarah, here's how we use word analysis. Sarah, read what you just wrote out loud. Sarah, like swimming. I say, Sarah, does that sound generally correct? She's going to say no. And I'm going to say, fix it. Sarah likes swimming. So we have her do that with 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Can you pause this for a second? Are you hearing my dog bark?
No issue. It's fine. It's totally fine. We can remove it. No issue.
Okay. Do you want me to go down and shut her up? Oh, well, 1 second. Let me just pause. I'm just going to shut her because it's noisy.
Sure.
Sorry about that. My housekeeper came in. All right. So let me just go back up. So what we're going to do is we are going to use this overactive front part of the brain. So we ask Sarah, does that sound generally correct? She's going to say no. And I'm going to say, fix it. So she's going to go and fix it. Sarah likes swimming. We have her practice that 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Now, do you see how that is a very simple form of word analysis?
Exactly.
Now we're going to go because reason 1, tell me a simple reason why a 10-year-old girl would love swimming.
Just because she might have seen someone, she has some aspiration about swimming, or
Yep. So
maybe she wanted
Sarah
to do
likes
something.
swimming because she has an aspiration to become a great swimmer.
Exactly.
Now, do you see how we got a whole mess of misspelled words?
Exactly.
Everybody in my field thinks, well, we're trying to teach the dyslexic how to spell. And remember when you were a child, 7 to 10 years old, and they would show you how to spell a word, and you might practice it 2, 3, 5, 10 times, and then you got it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Well, let's see what's going on. What's the problem is. Here's the book again. You have
Hmm.
this massive brain activity, so it doesn't take you,
Yeah.
it's not hard for you to learn. Me, I got nothing going on back there. I
Hmm.
can't learn. We keep forgetting. It's frustrating everybody. So how do we fix the spelling?
Hmm.
I'm going to show you that right now. It's really easy.
Okay.
First thing that we do is we tell Sarah to read what she wrote out loud. Does it sound generally correct? And if it's not, fix it. We don't care about spelling now. Why do I do that? For a very simple and very, very powerful reason. Because now, if she fixes it so what she just wrote sounds generally correct, those horrifically bad spelling and those horrifically bad grammar mistakes are now gone. You're going to be left with some little ones and some medium ones. And she's probably gotten a bunch of the medium ones. School teachers are really good at fixing the little ones. And they're very good at fixing the medium ones. They just don't know what to do with a complete mess. We've just fixed that. Next, we tell Sarah, put a period down. Every time she types out the sentence and there's a misspelled word, she has to rewrite the entire thing. And she's going to say, I'm not going to make that mistake. And she's going to keep making it
Hmm.
again and again and again for about 3 to 13 times. Each time she says, I'm not going to make that mistake, she's going to focus harder and harder not to make it. And she keeps making it until she doesn't.
Hmm.
That's where the magic happens, that massive concentration.
Yeah.
So then she finally gets it right. And then we move on. We do the same thing for 10 likes and 10 dislikes for reason one. Then 10 likes and 10 dislikes for reason one and reason two. Everything spelled correctly for 20 times. Then reason one, reason two, and reason three.
Yeah.
So once you do that, now we've gone from randomly placed misspelled words to actually getting this three reason sentences with decent grammar and correct spelling. And here's the other little hint. If she can write it, she can read it. All right. And that's that's the first start. But I noticed that when I switched over, when I went to New York City and I presented this in 2006 to the International Dyslexia Association's New York City branch, what I found is they wanted to know my original program, would that work for normal kids? And I said, no. They said, come back when it does. 8 years later, the biggest problem I ran into is I couldn't get these kids to do anything. And then I remembered back to when I was in law school. And I went to law school because my professors told me, well, if you like political science, then you'll like law. And it was in my specialty. So just to show you how important this is the biggest reason why things fail. Because what I just told you is step 3 of the model. I'm going to use the most successful kid I ever worked with. Her name is Casey. Just so everybody knows, I never saw this before Casey. I will never see this again. This was a one-off. Casey was 10 years old, finishing up 5th grade. She turned 11 over the summer. She was reading and writing at the 2nd grade level, and she was interested in Theodore Roosevelt. So I assigned her this little book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. All 900 pages. This thing is at the 15-year-old to 18-year-old reading level, 10th to grade to first year college, depending on who you ask. Casey insisted on doing reading first. So I said, okay, here's the process. Work with your mom, 10, 20 minutes a session, and I'll see you next week. I didn't know Casey. She went up to her room, shut the door, and worked on it 3 hours a night for 6 months. Most of the days during the summertime. At the end of that time period, you could flip to that random page, point to that random word, and she would tell you the exact dictionary definition of every word in that book. She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months. I worked with her for 15 minutes a week. Okay. Now, why
Yeah.
is that? Why am I spending so much time on this? Because she was the most motivated kid I ever worked with. Then her mom wanted to know what would happen if we moved over to a book she didn't like. Did it transfer? So I assigned her this, Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination.
Hmm.
1,000 pages of it. There are
Wow.
2 universal themes that make up the Disney magic. First one's easy to find. My second one takes my students 1 to 3 years to find, but then they're reading like 17-year-olds. Casey did it in 3 months. Why am I spending so much time on this? Here's the punchline. I asked Casey, when we move from something you love to something you hated, how much did your motivation drop? Most motivated kid I ever worked with. She said drop 50%. Most kids, it's 75 to 90%. 75 to 90% drop. I want you to think about that. That means your intervention is going to just not work or be wildly inefficient. So during the intervention period, you have to focus on the kid's speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. You get them an audio book and a book that's usually a couple grade levels ahead of where you want to go, and then you're all set. They're the same thing. Next, if you ask a dyslexic in your speciality, and the idea is flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization, is that you? So in your speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization? The answer is yes. So what we need to do is to force the dyslexic brain to organize by using writing as a measurable output. So again, we look at the science. The front part of the dyslexic brain is 2.5 times overactive.
Yeah.
There is literally no organization there. So if we're in a public school, we ask this question: what effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American 1960s civil rights movement? The dyslexic is like grabbing fog. We have no idea what to do. The gen ed kid knows exactly what to do. For the dyslexic, we have to do a specific to a general question. We have to start off at a specific point. What personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? We find that in his biography. We get the answer. That answer gives us a question, which gives us an answer, which gives us a question, which gives us an answer. That forces the brain to organize itself using writing as a measurable output. So it's really simple. Here's the model. During the intervention period only, we work on the kids' area, their speciality. Then we go from the specific to the general, and then word analysis followed by articulation. How successful is this? Kimberly is an example I'm writing my book on right now that'll be coming out soon. I met her on December 27th of 2024. She just had her son tested, Reed, who is 10 years old at the time, reading in 5th grade. He was reading at the state of Ohio tested him completely a few weeks before. He was reading at the 11th percentile, writing at the 4th percentile. Kimberly's a homeschooling mom, some college, taught his 4 brothers and sisters how to properly read using standard methods, but she felt ashamed that she failed with her son. I worked with her for half an hour a week. She worked for the rest of the school year. She worked with Reed for an hour and a half, 3 half-hour sessions. Most parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions for the rest of the school year, which ended in June. And I'm not telling you those results because over the summertime, Reed's friends came to him and they said, we want you in public school with us for social reasons, in class, for lunch. So he was tested 8.5 months after I worked with her in a public school. Mom's miles away. If he did badly, he would have been placed in special education away from his friends for his classes. Unhappy kid. That didn't happen. His reading went from the 11th percentile to the 64th. His writing went from the 4th percentile to the 65th. His grammar went up to the 97th percentile. Reed, I checked in with Kimberly for a couple of months into the semester. Reed was getting generally A's and B's in normal classes, no accommodations. She succeeded where specialized schools took so much time. She did what every parent dreamed of. All right. And she's a homeschooling mom, not a professional educator. That's how powerful this is.
That's really amazing, I have to say. And wow. And suppose, what does that daily reading frustration look like inside a home?
Well, I want you to imagine if you were given Swahili and told to read. And if you couldn't read, people, because everybody else reads Swahili, and they might be looking at you like, what are you, stupid? That's exactly what it is. Or let me give you an analogy. The sport that I'm the worst at is basketball. I mean, I'm the worst. What sport are you really bad at?
So me is into, I'd say, running mostly, I would say.
Okay. So imagine instead of reading and writing is how we're measured in school, imagine it was based on your ability to run. Okay, now I want you to imagine, let's say we're going to accommodate you. We're going to get you the best running coach on the planet. We're going to get you the best running shoes, the best running clothes. We're going to get you the best of everything. And the people you're going to go up against, we're going to give them used Walmart running shoes that are all beat to hell. Is it
Okay.
going to matter in the least? Because your body was not designed to be a distance runner. Okay. So if you can imagine, your entire family is extraordinarily good at running. Like, I'm sure your family is extraordinarily good at reading knowledge work. They're very smart. And then you can't do it. Can you see how you feel stupid?
Yep. Exactly.
That's what's going on.
That
So,
comparison comes.
yeah. And the reason why I use this analogy is because the schools will say, we can accommodate you. Really? You're going to accommodate, let's again look at the science, back part of the brain, nothing going on. You're going gangbusters. How are
Yeah.
you going to accommodate that? It's like, as you said with running. I want you to imagine you had a friend that was from Kenya and they run, 10, 12 miles a day to school at a 6-minute mile pace. Okay. You're not competing with that. They could be in flip-flops and you're in the best running shoes in the world and you can't compete
Yeah.
with that.
Right.
Maybe you could compete for the first quarter mile. It doesn't work. So what we need to do is to take what we do have, that massive overactivity in the front part of the brain, and work with it so that it works in a kid's speciality. Then when we send the kids back into school, they're okay. Okay? We only have to do in their speciality during the intervention period. But I will tell you, once we go on to grad school, like what happened to me in law school, happens all the time to dyslexics. You walk in, it's hyper-focused on the area you've been spending your entire life on. We dominate it. Okay? And that's where being dyslexic is a real advantage. Let me give you an example. Do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Yes, I do.
There are 6 sharks. How many do you think are dyslexic?
That's a good question. Never thought, actually.
Half of them.
Half.
Barbara, Damien, and Mr. Wonderful. So the half of it is an extraordinarily unfair advantage once you get out in the real world. Extraordinarily unfair. Now with the use of, like, for example, I used to always tell dyslexics you had to get good enough to get an assistant. No, I dropped $200 a month on Claude, Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.6. Okay. That's my assistant. $50 a week. And people are like, are you mad? I said, when ChatGPT came out with its $200 a month plan in December of 2024, I bought it that day. I just switched over to Anthropic because Opus 4.6 is just so much better for knowledge work. And it's like, I have 2 assistants. I have them do certain things, but a lot of stuff I just do with the artificial intelligence. Okay. And I know how to use it because the other thing I use is a book called The Craft of Research, Context Problem Solution. It was designed for PhD students at the University of Chicago to write their dissertations. It sold over 1 million copies in the last 30 years. I teach that process to high school kids. All right. My most successful one we're working out just to test it out. His name is Grayson. He's the son of a podcaster that I've been on. He's not dyslexic in the least. He's 10 years old with the reading or the math and science ability in the 99th percentile. So we're working on showing him how to get published. He wants to get his PhD, work for the American Space Agency, NASA, to terraform Mars. So we're working on helping him publish, to submit an article for publication. It will be rejected. And then once he's 13 or 14, we have the article written, we will then go up to introduce him to a senior professor in that area. And he's going to go, here's the article I tried to get published. Here's why it was rejected. Can you help me publish this? And watch the professor's jaw drop. Because that's something you're supposed to do in grad school. And he'll probably be 13 or 14 at the time. Think maybe that might help him get into college?
Not exactly, but
Yeah, that overrides, at least as far as the professors are concerned,
Yeah.
everything. So that's what we do with our most advanced. That's what we do with our most advanced students, and he's not dyslexic in the least.
Mm,
He's just flying through our process. So it works. This works for everybody.
exactly.
And if you know the craft of research, you can use AI even if you never used it before, because you just say, "How do I get to the context stage? How do I do the problem statement? Now, how do I do the solution?" You know how to do it. You're just going back and forth with the AI, figuring out how to do it more efficiently.
Yeah,
Okay. That's the requirement if you want to have a real job in the future, because
exactly.
it's just moving that fast.
Amazing answer. So I believe it's a great discussion we had today, and a lot of things to learn for sure. And I believe listeners who are listening right now, maybe you will be listening later, it will definitely help you, or maybe with your child, or maybe someone you know. And I would definitely say, like, these are something, I mean, even I was also shocked. Even in the beginning, I was a bit confused as well. But this is something, it really happens. And somehow I can say, like, we are somehow privileged enough that we have that mind work. But for them, definitely you should definitely connect with for this. And I believe you'll definitely gonna learn a lot of things. So like, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium to connect?
Best thing to do is just go to dyslexiaclasses.com. There's a button there that says download free guide. Click on that, answer 3 questions, get your guide, which is basically expands on what we discussed today. And then what'll happen is make sure you set up a time to speak with me directly so I can
Yeah.
tell you what it's a half an hour, doesn't cost anything. I find out what your kid's speciality is, ask them a couple of questions so they know where
Mm,
this is coming from. It's like, yeah, that's how my brain works. And we show you how to get their audio book and their general books, and we show you how to get started.
exactly. Lovely. So dear listeners, I'll put all the links and the details into the show notes. And with this, definitely I'd love to say that, like I was mentioning earlier, that dyslexia is not a kind of deficit of intelligence, but I would say it's more about, it's a difference in processing only, right? So when we teach in alignment with the brain, definitely coincidence is not a forced thing. It naturally emerges. So that's very, very true. And dear listeners, like, if today's conversation resonated with you, please share this episode with someone, with a parent or a teacher or a leader who needs a reminder, right? Frustration is the feedback. I mean, it's not a failure, right? So thank you so much for joining us on Mind Meets Machine. I'm your host, Avik, and we believe, like, better systems create the better outcomes. And but only, yes, only when they are built around the human potential, right? So, with this hope, until next time, stay curious, stay intentional, and keep building the solution that serve minds and not just the matrices. So, thank you so much.